Hello, guys, and welcome. Um, I hope everything is going fine. And today I want to talk about. I don't know if anybody's watching. I thought I would do the stream at 4 o'clock, but then I got delayed in my day, and I had to delay the stream. So I'm sorry if there's some confusion. Nicholas saying late. Yeah, I'm not late. I rescheduled. It's different. Uh, I just wanted to. No, I'm just delaying a bit to give a chance to people to get the notification and jump in because this should be a short stream, even though I don't have a slide. Right, you know the process. When I do those stream with a specific topic, I try to get the content front loaded. But what I wanted to talk about today, and I saw in your comments earlier, Nicholas, even though you seem to have taken it out. Yeah, who you gonna call out tonight? What I'm going to talk about here about tonight, right? It's something it's an issue that we see in the 3D and 4D style, and that don't really exist in other style, right? Because they have other issue, right? It's like while we try to solve something, it creates some other issue. And what I'm talking about is those scene that drag on. There's no more juice left in the scene, right? And that's a problem. And the seed keep dragging on, and there's no good way to have it move on because the GM doesn't want to just like teleport the player to a different scene or skip the time ahead in case they still have something to do, right? And it is something that we've seen in our last Licious Dredge game, which by the way, the next one is tomorrow. and and we discussed a bit about it at the end of the session, but I think it was worthwhile to have its own video, right? So here's the problem, right? The scene, you're in the scene, and it might be a bit of downtime, or even like maybe you just finished a combat and now you're just like in the aftermath, and the character are still interacting or still doing stuff. When do you know the scene is done? When do you know that nobody has anything else to contribute to the scene and it's time to move on to the next scene, right? In traditional play, why I'm saying it's not an issue, that's an issue that exists in 4D and 3D, is because in traditional play, in 2D or 1D, is like at some point the GM is just gonna push the scene forward, right? It's just gonna say, okay, now it's the next day, right? And then like you just have to keep your hands and feet inside the rail cart, right? That's basically what's happening. We don't want to do that in 4D or in 3D. We want to leave player agency. So if they want to drag on in the scene, they should be allowed to. But the problem is oftentimes we accidentally drag on in the scene when we don't want to, right? And this is when it came to anchor action. And I talked about that before, but like I said, I wanted to make it this own video so it's more shareable. It's basically you have to do an action that doesn't contribute anything to the scene. And I know it can be counterintuitive because like it comes your turn and you want to do something interesting. But if you keep doing something interesting every time your turns come about, that's indicating everybody else that you're not done with the scene. You still want to contribute something, right? You're like, and I understand the instinct that you want to make your turn interesting. You want your turn, you make your turn meaningful. So you're gonna try to think about something interesting to do. But at some point, you have to go against the instinct because you got to say like, well, now this scene is done. I want to let the scene move on. So it's time to do something that is mundane and boring and signify to everybody involved, I'm done with this scene. I'm willing to move on, right? You had a campfire. At some point, your turn is just gonna be, I'm just resting a bit, like leaning down against a log and watching the fire roast, right? That's a You say what your character is, you say what your character does, but it doesn't build anything in the scene, right? It's just like I'm just existing here. I'm like that's indicate I'm done with this scene. You're you have a scene where you're boarding a plane, right? And you can have like some chit chat, and you want to give the chance of the player to chit chat and to interact with the people sitting next to them because that might come relevant later, right? But at some point, this conversation needs to end. This conversation needs to move on. So okay, now the plane, like, so we can time skip ahead, right? And also, I guess relocation skips. Well, you're still in the plane, but you time skip ahead. So at some point, it's just like I start browsing in the on the screen in the seat in front of me, right? For the movie to picking a movie to watch, right? That's saying like I'm done, right? I did the chit chat with this guy sitting next to me, so we established something that might come relevant later or might not. Now I'm done, so I'm doing something else. Or I start like I pick up a book from my bag and I open it and start reading, right? So now if the other players, that's you as a player saying my character is done. He doesn't have anything else to contribute to this scene. Now the other players can, if they have something else to contribute to the scene, they can. If they have something else meaningful to add to the scene, they can. But if they also done, they can also like make their own action saying like I'm also done, right? And once everybody did that, when you went of all the or like a whole round, like you go through each player, and they all did an action that say like that basically broadcast I have nothing else to contribute to the scene, then the GM can skip ahead in time, or if you are traveling, right, skip ahead in location. There's also something maybe sometime as a player you can get the hint, right? If you're the only one that want to contribute something to the scene, that you're not done with the scene, but everybody else did this kind of like I'm done action, right? You maybe you can take the hint and say, well, I'm not going to drag it on longer than so like bring it to a close, right? Do what you want to do, but like bring it to a close. So I think that's a good habit to do, right? Like it's can be kind of counterintuitive because, like I said, you want to make your turn interesting, you want to make your turn meaningful, but at some point you need to know, if you want to let the scene die out, if you want to let the fire burn out, right? You need to stop putting fuel into it. So that's the thing I want to say. Like it's often like something that people ask about, like, oh, how do you know when the scene is done, right? It needs to come from the player because the player, you want to respect the player agency, and the player need to let it die. Need to let the scene die, right? You can always add something, right? You can always try to, but at some point you want to move on because you want to move to the next scene and do something else that's going to be more meaningful. So it is something that probably should be discussed in session 0 about like the GMs should say, well, I'm not going to teleport you around, I'm not going to time skip you around unless we go through this process, right? And you have to take care of that, and you have to take that into consideration when you're choosing your action. Do you really want to prolong this scene, right? If not, have your character shut down, right? In a sense, right? Say like now you're doing something personal and you're doing so you can move on with something else. So that's going to be a short video because it's very a specific point I wanted to make. I'm going to go to the comment now. So if you have question, you can ask, right? So yeah, Nicolas, say you're going to call it tonight and say like, oh, I see, it's me. It's not specifically you. Because like sometimes your character would do like we were trying to shut down a scene, and then your character would go out and do something else. And that's fine because what your character was doing was meaningful, right? You were planting seed for something else later on. And that's what I'm talking about here, right? It's like and that's the reason why we want to have this procedure where like because it's to give you a chance to do something meaningful that's going to come into play later. If we just start settling down and then the GM say, oh, okay, now the next morning, right, whatever, then you didn't get your chance, right? But since we decide to go one round, we go one round where everybody does like something to signify that he's done with the scene. Well, if a player is not done with the scene, then the scene can keep on going, right? Because we want to give the chance to this player to do his thing as well. So I don't think you're the one. I'm bad at that sometimes too, right? Jacobi Wiseman say, no, you started at 4 and stop an episode of Ninja Sentai Kaku Ranger. Prefer Sentai over Power Ranger. More, I don't know what that. I don't know what that means. I'm sorry. I agree, but overactor, love it. Yeah, that's also something like you see like in like I say, it's a problem that you have in 3D and 4D because we try to respect player agency and we try to achieve something in some game, right? When those like they're gonna do like the whole session is just shopping. Is the shopping episode, right? And they love it because now they can do the character voice and stuff like that, but then nothing's get done, right? And in some game where it's just about like making jokes, then it's not a problem because they're not trying to achieve anything. If we want to have like this cinematic feel, but we also want, and in some game, like I said, the GM just gonna say, screw that, I'm done with this scene. I'm the GM, done with this scene, so we move on to the next one, right? And like I said, just keep your hands and feet inside the card. But since we're trying to have something that is like cinematic, where thing gets done, but we also want to respect player agency, we need to find this balance, and I think this is where the balance is. With other scenes, all scenes drag. Oftentimes, yes. When you try to make things interesting every time, it's not interesting. And sometimes, like, you can add some flavor, and okay, I like the detail you added it. It's tell me something about your character, so like there's still some juice there, right? But it's I could have got that at different time, at a different moment, where it would be more meaningful, right? It's like a little drop of interesting stuff, right? I'm not saying it's completely wasted, but it's getting in the way of getting something more meaningful, right? Sometimes, so you need to find this balance, right? Like, and I'm not like, I like having those scenes that are more slow paced, right? And from all the people I play with, like, I'm one of them that are I like the slow paced stuff a lot, right? I like scenes that take times because you learn about the character and stuff like that. You have this tension, you have those relationships that develop, right? You can have all those things. I love that. I'm not the guy that always need the action and stuff like that. But at some point, you also need to know when okay, it's enough for now, right? We're gonna have more later. We can have more later, right? Nicolas Carmago said sometimes it's a conflict of interest. I try not to hug down time, but there's a bias for slow interaction scene when it comes to my character in Let's Dregs. Yeah, but like also like because like your character wants to do stuff undercover, right? On the down low, on the DL, like they say, because your character wants to do those kind of thing, right? There's like that's a different challenge because like we kind of have to have our character do non-meaningful stuff while you can skip away and do your own like meaningful stuff, right? You're in a sense kind of working against the party. So like there is this conflict of interest that's gonna come up there. Like we need to give you rooms to do stuff while you won't be missed, right? So it need to be like kind of like downtime. We need to have like this drag down downtime to give you a chance to but also I wouldn't be opposed if we all signified that we're done with a scene and you went away to do something else, you could have like a few turns like on your own, right? Because it's basically a different scene because you're in a different location of time. Like you went to while we're doing that, and now like we all signify that we can try to do the back and forth, but now we all signify that we're just like getting ready to go sleep and ready for a time skip, but you're not quite done. So we can like the GM could stay with you for a few turns, and then like until you come back to camps and stuff like that, until you're done with your time as well. And by the way, I was glad to have it interrupted. Oh wait, I miss. And by the way, I was glad to have it interrupted. Oh, the show. Okay, I get it. You were watching the show and oh, okay. I'm sorry if I interrupted your show. Hello, John McCarty. Yes. So do you often see player prolong a dead scene? Yes, it happens. It happens quite a bit, and I've seen GM try to rush a scene when a player still wanted to do something. So it goes on both way. Hello, die still, by the way. Jewish Skeptic, hello, and Tilio 2811 on Twitch. Hello. Like I try to acknowledge the Twitch people, but I'm obviously like more like a YouTube shop. John McCarty say, I used to be a gut, so I know a thing or two about Dead Sea. Well, yeah, the gut scene is pretty dead. I'm a jazz guy. It's a dead genre too. Ethnic gut or me. Oh. Evening, John Tate. How do you define a dead scene? It's a scene that well, a dead scene it's a scene. A dead scene would be a scene that is over, right? It's a dying. It's a scene that like when I'm talking about like a scene that has no more juice left, right? What you have to get from that scene, the purpose of that scene has been fulfilled, right? So So that's how we define like a dead scene technically, right? Just like, and that's what I'm saying. Like sometimes like some people like want to prolong it, right? Like keep it on life support by always like adding a little thing that are not, but everything that is meaningful, everything that needed to be resolved in that scene has kind of been resolved. Uh, and now like Chandler used to say like, oh no, you're just playing patty cake, right? You're just doing like you're just like not doing anything that contribute to any plot or any character development. Oh, thank you for the $5 for being generally awesome. Well, that's very appreciated. Yeah. Eh, Jacobite I ask ethnic gut or Abby from NCIS gut. If he used to be gut, I guess it's probably like the later one because like you don't move from a different ethnicity. Also, the gut have been gone for a while. Dice tester, what if I find awkward is being the GM and figuring out exactly what to narrate to a transition? Yes, and I think that's something like you can kind of like if you make disagreement with your player, I think that could help a lot because like if the players know that it's fair game to if it's say like okay, I'm not gonna do time skip or location skip until you indicated me you're ready to do so, and you indicate me to you're ready to do so by having a full round where everybody takes a turn doing something that is just a throwaway action. Basically, you're not adding any more fuel to the scene, right? So now you have this signal that you can listen to, that you can that is agreed upon, right? And it blend in with the narration. So I think having this understanding with the player, right? It helps a lot. And then you can just say like, and I'm big fan also of doing like sometimes you want to do those transition like, oh, they're going to sleep, then you're gonna transition to the morning. They're traveling on a cart to the forest, then you're gonna transition to the other end of the forest, those kind of thing. But I'm a big fan also of doing the mid transition scene, right? When you see a movie and like the characters are traveling somewhere and then you have a quick scene, transition scene of them traveling somewhere and then like they're gonna be at destination, right? I like to do those just to give a chance for the player that if they want to do something during traveling, they can interject. They can, but it's also a good point for them to just say like what they're doing during the travel or during the night, right? If they're sleeping and somebody want to do something at night, you can just like make a quick description of how the night is, right? Is the air fresh? Is there like owl owling? Is there the last the last I'm losing the word in English. Like the fire is dying down, basically stuff like that, right? Just like, and then you just make like some narration like that of stuff happening in the night, and then if a player like say, "Oh, I wake up and now I go poison the water bottle of this guy," well, like now you can have like something interesting, but they can also just say like, "Oh, I'm dreaming of this," or I'm snoring, my head's on my saddle as a pillow, right? Just like, and then you just move on, and then it's morning. But giving a chance too, I think I'm a big fan of that. Joey Skeptic say, if a majority of player 3/4 are done, it's time for the GM to end the scene and go to the next with a reactionary event, rain and thunder, so they go to their tents. Or would this be overstepping? That goes into my last stream that I did, right? About like throwing too much stuff in the way of the player. Sometimes you just want to let them drive a bit, right? So if 3/4 of the player are done, well, depends also what the other player is doing, but I think you need to like, because at some point, oftentimes, what those scenes drag on, right? It's going to be interaction between two characters. So if you have like maybe 5 characters, it'd be like 3 out of 5, right? And then you have 2 characters interacting back and forth. Then it's time for those characters to pipe down, right? But I wouldn't have the GM intervene. It might be like a good idea for like another player in character to say like, "Come on, guys, don't you fucking go to sleep? It's time to pipe down," right? Something like that. Uh, it could happen that you have 3 out of 4 characters that are done, and the fourth one interacting with NPCs. But then the GM can control this NPC and say, "Well, it's time I'm at the sack as well. It's time I'm going. Like I need to leave now, right? It's like it's been lovely chatting with you, but I need to leave now." So I wouldn't necessarily cut the scene with something else happening, because if you put something else happening, you're changing the scene, but you're keeping it alive, right? And the point sometimes is to move to the next scene, right? Next location or next time. So if you, I guess like a thunderstorm would force them into the tent and stuff like that. That could work. Don't overuse it. It's not a bad idea, but don't overuse it, I would say. Maybe that small dent player agency is a good cue that the scene should end. Yeah. Well, you still control the world as a GM, so still fair. Do you ever use the petitioner grantor thing? I don't even know what that is. Petitioner grantor? So I don't think I do. Like in Dice Tales, can you explain a bit what that is? Hello, Big Bad. It's good to have non-liberal RPG advice. Yeah, it's very ironically enough, I'm very liberal in the way I play RPG, because I'm very like, it's player driven. You don't want to, like I'm not authoritarian as a GM at all. That's the only the only spot in my life that I'm not. Oh, John Tate with a little flower there with $5. Thank you. £5. Wow. Thank you very much, man. It's appreciated. Yeah. Jack McCarty said, I can understand that point. If the scene is not serving the greater story session, it should be minimized. Yeah. Like you want to have some scene also just for character development, but it's in measure, right? They say like the difference between medicine and poison is in dosage. It's the same thing with those when you role play. As always, it should be addressed in session 0 plus social contract. Yeah. And like at some point also, if you play with the same people regularly, at some point like you develop those skills, right? And become like understood and become something that your party get better at. And then like, there's a learn, it's a learn the hobby, the RPG hobby. If you do it seriously and if you're just a slub gamer, there's learned skill to it. You can get better at it. And getting better at role playing game, it's not about like making better build, having more damage per round. So like that's what I'm talking about when I'm saying like you can get better at. If people say you can get better at D&D, like, can you get better at RPGs, right? That's what I'm talking about. Like it's those little like interaction. You get more into character. The thing goes more seamless because you have those understanding with the party, and you get better. It's like a team sport, right? You get like your team develop plays. The same thing can be done in RPGs, and then like you have those session where like there's nothing getting in the way of the immersion, and that's great. It's a great time. Dice Tale, so I guess with the I Trust Gaming, which you should always play I Trust Gaming. You will have players that know when to make a statement that says, I'm done here. Exactly. Yeah. I would say you're liberal. I wouldn't say you're liberal. You just say you have the correct view RPG or a communal activity. Exactly. Not a top-down hierarchical one. Yeah. So I hope this gonna be helpful to some people. I think I'm gonna wrap it up now. Short stream, which I just wanted to make this very specific point, and I try to make them like self-contained. Not everything has to be like a 4-hour stream. So tomorrow we have the next session of the Lich's Dredge. So maybe we'll be able to put that advice into action. And what else? That's it. That's all I have to announce. I'm gonna have something else probably next week. I don't know what yet. If you have questions, sometimes you can just leave them in comments. I don't reply to comments as much as I should, to be honest, but I read them all. Sometimes it's just like I'm somewhere, I read them on my phone, and I don't think about coming back to reply them. So, but I do. So if you have questions, specific question, I can probably like reply to them in a stream that more people are gonna see. Right, it's gonna be more useful. So yeah, this scene is over. So we're gonna time skip to tomorrow. Take care, guys. See ya. Have a good night.